the last lesson in chapter 9, which is volume of pyramids. So our I can statement today is I can find the volume of pyramids and I can solve real life problems. So our key idea, volume of a pyramid. The volume of a pyramid is 1/3 the product of the area of the base and the height of the pyramid. If we looked at a rectangular prism or a triangular prism that had the same area and, of the base and the height, it would take 3 of them to fill up that prism. So I'm just going to show a quick picture of what I mean. So if I've got a square pyramid here. If I compared it to a rectangular prism that was the same base and height, it's not a very nice picture, but it'll work. It has the same area of the base. It still has the same height. It would take me 3 of those to fill up the prism, times 3. So if I do it 3 times, I get that volume of the full prism. So I use that generic formula for the volume of a prism, and I divide by 3. 1/3 base times height. 1/3 is the same thing as divide by 3. That means base times height divided by 3, which is how we're going to solve it. Because it takes 3 pyramids to fill up the prism that has the same height and the area of the base. So let's go ahead and we're going to use a generic formula for our first one here. Looks like the base is a hexagon, 6 sides. So they tell us the area of the base. It's a little light and yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite it in marker so you can see it a little bit better. 48 millimeters squared, and our height, now this time it's not slant height, it's actual height from the middle of the prism up, or I'm sorry, middle of the pyramid up to the top. That's our actual height. We use actual height when we find volume for pyramids. So here's our generic formula. Area of the base, that's that capital B, times height divided by 3. And if the base is anything besides a rectangle or a triangle, they'll tell you the area of the base. So area of the base on this pyramid was 48. They told us that. And then they told us the height was 9. And then because it's a pyramid, we have to divide by 3. So once we multiply that out and we divide, we get 144 millimeters cubed. Volume is always in cubic units, just like we saw for our prisms. So we need to make sure we have that little 3 on our answer. Okay, so go ahead and, oh no, actually, sorry, these are different, so don't pause yet. Let's take a look at these. So A is a rectangular prism. So for this one, because it's a rectangular, sorry, I said prism, I meant pyramid, rectangular pyramid. We use our prism formula, length times width times height, but then we divide by 3. So for this one, we've got 3 times 4 times 7 divided by 3. If you want to think about the times 3 divided by 3 canceling out, you certainly could think that our volume here is going to be 28 feet cubed. All right, for B, this one is a triangular pyramid. Base is a triangle. Okay, so for a triangular pyramid, it's a little bit different. The idea, the generic formula is the same. We find the area of the, we find the volume of the prism. So for a triangular prism, we do 1/2 base times height for the whole shape. And then because it's a pyramid, at the end we have to divide by 3. However, if you want to combine that divide by 2 and combine by 3, the divided by 3 part, this divided by 2, and this divided by 3, which is like times 1/3. If we do 1/2 times 1/3, we multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. That means we can combine those 2 parts and do divided by 6. So our simplified formula, the easiest one to use, is base times height for the triangle times height for the whole shape divided by 6. That's our easiest formula to use. It's combining that divided by 2 and divided by 3. Instead of doing it in 2 steps, we're going to combine it and do it in 1 step. The relationship of a third compared to the prism, that relationship is still the same. It's just we've combined the 1/2 and the 1/3 to 1/6, which means divide by 6. Okay, so now I'm going to look at my picture. I'm going to get the numbers for my base and height for my base and the height for the whole shape. And then I'm going to multiply them and divide by 6. So I have 6 and 17.5 and 10. And then I'm going to divide by 6. If you want to think about that times 6 divided by 6 canceling out, you could. Our final volume for this one is going to be 175 meters cubed. All right, so for these next ones, we are going to go ahead and find the volume of the pyramid. I'm going to write the formula under each shape, and then I'd like you to pause and try them on your own. So the first one is a pentagonal pyramid. We're going to use that generic formula, area of the base times height divided by 3. 2 is a rectangular pyramid, so we're going to use the rectangular prism formula, length times width times height divided by 3. And then the last one is a triangular pyramid. Because we have a 1/2 in our base and height for the triangle, and then the divided by 3 for the whole shape, we can combine the divided by 2 and the divided by 3 into a divided by 6. Go ahead and pause right now and try these problems on your own. Okay, let's go ahead and check them to see if you got the right answer. So for the first one, we need to do base times height, so 21 times 6. And then it is a pyramid, so we need to divide that by 3. So when we do that, we get 42, and then that's going to be feet cubed. All right. Switch colors here. Keep it a little more organized. Okay, so for our second pyramid, we're multiplying and dividing by 3 again. So 10 times 8 times 7 divided by 3. You can do that all in one step if you'd like. And once we do that, we get 186 and 6/10 repeating. In your calculator, it's probably going to show you 6666666 with a 7 at the end. That's because your calculator rounds repeating decimals. So if your repeating decimal is 5 or more, that last digit will look higher than the rest of the repeating ones. Okay, let's take a look at our last one here, triangular pyramid. So we're going to go ahead and multiply our numbers and divide by 6. So 7 times 18 times 11 divided by 6. And once we do that, we get 231 centimeters cubed. Okay, so next one's a story problem. It says the volume of sunscreen in bottle B is about how many times the volume in bottle A. Whenever a problem says how many times, that's telling us we're going to need to divide. Even though times looks like multiplication, I want to know how many times the smaller one can go into the bigger one. That means division. So I need to find the volume of both. We're going to assume they are perfect pyramids, even though we can see the top isn't perfectly to a point. That's why the word about is in there. We're going to go ahead and just assume they're perfect pyramids, and then we're going to divide with our answers. So I'm going to start with bottle A. And remember our formula. These are both rectangular pyramids. Length times width times height divided by 3. That's what we're going to be using. So I'm going to do 6 times 2 times 1, and I'm going to divide that by 3. And let's see, 6 times 2 is 12, times 1 is still 12, divided by 3 is 4. So my volume for bottle A is going to be 4 inches cubed. Now I'm going to do the same thing for bottle B. So my numbers for bottle B are 4 times 3 times 1.5 divided by 3. So for bottle B, I'm getting a volume of 6 inches cubed. And then since it says how many times the volume, that means I need to divide. So B, how many times the volume of A? They are asking me for B first. So 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. And that's going to be times greater is our volume label on this one. So the volume is 1.5 times greater for bottle B compared to bottle A. So which one is the better buy? We're going to find the unit price and we're going to compare them to see which one is cheaper per cubic inch. So I'll start with bottle A. The cost for bottle A, if I look at the picture, is $9.96. And we found in our answer above that the volume there was for 4 cubic inches. Whenever we find unit cost, we take the dollars first and then we divide by whatever our value. When I did my division, I got $2.49 per cubic inch. That's my unit price for A. Now I'm going to do the same thing for B. So my price for B is $14.40 and my volume was 6 cubic inches. So I'm going to divide that out to get my unit cost. When I divide for that one, I get 2.4, but remember, dollars always has 2 decimals to it, money, so it's going to be $2.40 per cubic inch. So which is the better buy? That's going to be bottle B. It has a smaller unit price. Bottle B is the better buy. All right, let's take a look at 4. It says bottle C is on sale for $13.20. Is bottle C a better buy than bottle B in example 3? And explain. So we're going to do the same steps that we did on the last one. We're going to find the volume, we're going to find the unit price, and then we're going to explain. So for our volume, length times width times height divided by 3, same formula we've been using. So 3 times 3 times 2 divided by 3. When I do that, I get 6 inches cubed. So it tells us the cost was $13.20. So if we do $13.20 divided by 6 inches cubed, we get $2.20 per inches cubed. So that is going to be a lower unit rate. It says explain. So yes, bottle, bottle C has a lower So that's one way to do it. You might have also noticed that the volume in bottle C, if we go back, is actually the same as bottle B. So they had the same volume, but bottle B costs more. So that means bottle C is a better option. So that's another way to think about that one as well. Once you notice the volumes are the same, if the cost is less for C, that means it's going to be a better buy. All right, and then our last type of problem for today is looking at composite volumes. This is like what we did for composite surface areas and composite areas in Chapter 8. We're finding the individual parts, we're adding them together. So it's a little hard to tell for this particular picture whether it's a triangle or a square because they don't show that fourth, the extra side there. They don't have a dotted line. It looks like a square to me. So we're going to go ahead and calculate this as if it is a rectangular pyramid and a rectangular prism. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my pyramid first since it's on the top of my shape. For a rectangular pyramid, remember our formula: length times width times height divided by 3. So if I need my length and width, I can look at the bottom there. And that bottom tells me that those side lengths are going to be 4, and I can see 6 is my height. So I'm going to do 4 times 4 times 6 divided by 2. 4 times 4, 16, times 6 divided by 2. That's going to give me a volume of, wait, hold on. That's going to give me a volume of 48. Okay, so now oh, you know what? I realized why I was writing 32 when I did my head. We don't want to divide by 2. Sorry, we want to divide by 3. I have that up here, divided by 3. But then when I wrote it down, I wrote down the wrong thing. Okay, so 4 times 4 times 6 divided by 3, that's going to give me 32 inches cubed. That's my volume for my rectangular pyramid. Now I'm going to do my prism. Because it's a rectangular prism, I'm using that rectangular prism formula: length times width times height. When I look at my picture, I can see 4 times 4 times 5. When I multiply those together, I get a volume of 80 inches cubed. And then my last step is to add my two volumes together. So 32 plus 80, that's going to give me a total volume of 112 inches cubed. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at 5 and 6. So for number 5, we've got a rectangular prism and a rectangular pyramid. And for 6, we actually have a triangular prism and a rectangular prism. So I'm going to write the individual formulas next to the individual parts, and then I'm going to ask you to pause and try it on your own. So for 5, on this first part, this pyramid up at the top, we're going to do length times width times height divided by 3. For the cube here, it's a type of rectangular prism. We use the rectangular prism formula: length times width times height. On number 6, this top, if you look, it doesn't come to one point. It's got this whole line on the top. It's not a pyramid, it's a prism. So for our triangular prism, this part, we're going to do base times height for the whole shape and divide by 2. And for our rectangular pyramid, rectangular prism, we're still doing length times width times height. Go ahead and pause the video now. Try these two problems. All right, let's go ahead and check our answers. So I'm going to start with the pyramid on the top there for number 5. If I look at my cube, these top sides will also be 12, same as the bottom. So that gives me the numbers for my pyramid. I'm going to do 12 times 12 times 18 divided by 3 to find the volume for my pyramid. Okay, so when I multiply those out and divide by 3, I get 864 centimeters cubed. I'm going to go ahead and just wait on my labels until the end. So now I'm going to do the cube. All of the sides are 12. So I'm going to do 12 times 12 times 12 to get that answer. And that gives me 1,728. My last step here is to add those two values together. Once I do that, I get my final answer, 2,592. And now I'm ready for my label, which is centimeters cubed. Volume is always in cubic units. All right, let's take a look at number 6. So I'm going to start with the top shape as well on this one. So I'm going to start with my triangular prism. If I look at the bottom of my rectangular prism, I can see this part of my triangular prism is 4, and I can see this part is 2. All right, so I have the numbers that I need for my formula: base times height divided by 2. So I'm going to do 3 times 4 times 2 divided by 2, because it's not a pyramid, it's a prism. When I multiply that out, I get 12. Now I'm going to do my prism, my rectangular prism at the bottom here, length times width times height. So 3 times 2 times 4, when I multiply that out, I get 24. And then my last step here is to add those values together, and that's going to give me 36 centimeters cubed. All right, and this last problem here, it says sketch a rectangular pyramid with a base 3 units by 4 units and a height of 5 units. What is the volume? Go ahead and pause and try this one on your own. All right, let's go ahead and see if you did it correctly. So I'm going to start by just drawing my rectangle. I'm going to label the sides 3 and 4. I'm going to pick a point at the top. My height goes all the way straight down to the middle. And then they tell me the height is 5. And then we're going to use the label units, which means really in our picture we don't see any labels at all. So now we're ready to find our volume. This is a rectangular pyramid. So we're doing length times width times height divided by 3. So here's my numbers. 4 times 3 times 5 divided by 3. When I do 4 times 3 times 5 and I divide by 3, I get 20. They told me to use units, so I'm going to do units. And then cubed is my final answer.